The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
All right, welcome to another edition of The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Wooldy. We got a great show for you, but we're going to get to our guest and, of course, my co-host, Greg Buchanan. As always, how are you?
Not too bad.
Excellent. Obviously, sun tanning. You look like you have a nice
Yes.
glow
Oh,
here.
yes.
Right.
Enjoying the sun.
There you go.
Where's the sun?
Oh, well, we're going to miss it for at least a couple more months, but that's good news for this man because you are an avid hockey fan. You are our beat guy for the Bobcats.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm talking about Matt Schumont here at Newcap Sports. How's it going, man?
Good. How you doing?
Not too bad. Definitely a lot better than some teams. Saskatchewan, maybe. But you know what? They do have a home playoff game. That's what they could rest on. Now, saying that, they did have a loss to the Stampeders. Potentially, if they get through BC, we're going to see a rematch in the West Final. That'd be great. But what happens to guys like Corey Sheets? What happens to guys like Darian Durant? And what happened to Sheets in particular is when he started going off on George Cortez. Now, and from a player-coach standpoint, I know you've been a player and you've played in different levels of hockey. I know you've done the same and you've been a coach general manager. From that standpoint, where do you go and say Sheets was selfish, Cortez did the right thing or the wrong thing by not playing Sheets down by the goal line by giving him any carries?
Oh, well, I think, it's the heat of the moment. He probably shouldn't have done it, but I can see where he's coming from. It's Corey Sheets. He leads the league in touchdowns for rushing touchdowns. When it's first and goal from that close, you got to give him the ball at least once. If it doesn't work on first down, then of course you can throw. But to hold him out there, yeah, I can see where he's coming from, being upset. He wants the ball.
Yeah, I question their schemes when they're in that tight to get it, inside that 10-yard line, and they're not giving the ball to Corey. But at the same time, the way that Corey did it and the way Corey confronted the OC is not what you do. And lost a lot of respect for Corey Sheets because you look at it, you wonder if this is a hidden agenda for Corey. If he wants to win the game, that's one thing. But is he the guy that, he was trash talking with John Cornish prior to the game? Was he trying to prove that he's better than John Cornish? Was Corey putting himself ahead of the team? So as a manager of a hockey team, if I saw a player putting himself ahead of the team, that player is definitely in my bad books.
Is there any concern between the relationship between Sheets and Cortez? Or will it be frayed at all?
No, I think it's done and over with. I think they said what they needed to say and moved on. It's just, the heat of the game, Sheets did want to prove a lot against Cornish. First place was still up for grabs. The guy just wants to win, so.
Yeah, you know what, it does. In the heat of the battle, you say some things between even coaching members, members of the coaching staff. They'll yell at each other during a game. Everything's a bit of a different level when you're playing in a game. And then you and I are sitting down here talking at a certain level during the game. It's off the charts, So you have to realize it's a game situation. What's said in the heat of the battle sometimes is not really meant to be said.
All right. Well, I guess we could leave the trash talking and the comments to the fans. But if you did that, if you're a St. Louis Cardinal fan, you didn't like what Big Papi did in return. He had a fantastic game. He's having a fantastic World Series. If Boston wins it, he's got to be the World Series MVP. With that said, where does Ortiz and his performance in the World Series rank all time to you, in your opinion?
Oh, top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
What he's doing is just unreal. Hitting well over 700 right now. The rest of the team's hitting, like $130 maybe?
Yeah.
What he's doing is just unbelievable. He's Mr. October. They call him Cooperstown. It's just sick. His performance is sick.
You know what? Comparable to a guy named Reggie, probably. I know there's folklores about Reggie Jackson and the Yankees. Boston doesn't want to hear about that, but very comparable to what Reggie did. And Reggie really, when he did have that big 3 home run game, he didn't do too much in the rest of that series. He did a lot in about 2 or 3 games in that series, but not for the whole series. Ortiz has been lights out for the whole series.
Plus, he was robbed of that grand slam, too, so imagine if he hit that.
It'd be a
Four
lot
more
higher,
guys.
closer to 800 or so.
Exactly, yeah.
Hey, guys, with that said, St. Louis, their starting pitching at least has gotten better. It's not like they have been bad, but Boston hitters, in particular Ortiz, has been the issue. With that said, can the Cardinals come back? Because they have bats of their own. They have guys like Holiday. They have guys like Beltran, who's a little banged up, but still is a power hitter and can hit in the clutch. Do they still have a chance to probably take the series?
I think they do. They're probably going to go with Waka in Game 6, and that kid's just been cold as ice. But, yeah, if they push it to Game 6, I think Boston will start Buchholz, who's kind of been on the shelf all year. So anything can happen. If they can get Game 6, there's a pretty good chance they can take Game 7. But that being said, doing it in Boston is pretty tough, too.
It's a cliche, but they have to go out there and win the next game. They win the next game, then anybody can win Game 7. And there is, depending how Game 6 goes, there's a little bit of pressure on Boston. They're at home. Everybody wants them to win. All of a sudden, if Game 6 doesn't go their way, and who knows, all of a sudden, everything's on the line in Game 7, and they have to win that one. Because Boston will be heartbroken if they don't win a World Series right in Fenway Park in front of their own fans since, what was it, 1918 last time they won a World Series at home?
It was a while back.
Yeah, it's been a while, like before my days, hopefully. So.
Especially after the Bruins losing the Cup, too.
Yeah.
I think Boston fans can really afford this one.
No, they can't. Hey, let's talk about hockey and John Scott, of course. Another suspension. He kind of cried foul, saying, "What are you supposed to do? I'm not a dirty player. It's just what the game is." Even Don Cherry went on behalf and said, "Look, this is his role. It's not his fault." Now, all that aside, does John Scott, or at least the type of role that John Scott plays, does that still have some legitimacy in the NHL, a place in the NHL?
Oh, I hate saying it, but probably not. If John Scott went down and played in the East Coast League, he played in the Central League, for crying out loud, he'll be lucky to get 10 goals. He's not a very skilled hockey player. Having a stick in his hand is probably a liability, because I don't think he uses his stick too often.
Could it be just the system? Maybe if he plays in a different system?
No, he's bad. He's a bad hockey player. Come
he's
on.
just
He's
terrible.
6'7". He's out there for one reason only. Hopefully he's got no more than 5 minutes a game, because that's all he deserves. And a bad thing about this, he's taking a position away from a player that probably deserves a lot more.
Well, they were saying, I know Don Cherry was mentioning this, maybe give him more time, like what Carlisle does with Colton Orr. Gives him ice time at the beginning.
You
sets
can't
the tone.
compare Orr and...
You can't compare John Scott to anything.
No.
John Scott's an idiot. I'm just going to say it. He's an idiot. He has no skill. I don't know why he's in the NHL right now. Like Bucky said, he's taking the spot of, especially with Buffalo, they got to start rebuilding, right? So what's the point of having a guy like John Scott on the team? He's not going to protect anyone.
No, speaking of which, I'm going to have to hold that, because I want to get to the whole Matt Molson, Thomas Vanek trade in a second. I know you have an opinion, but first we're going to have to take a quick TV timeout, and when we come back, I know Matt's got a few things to say about the Buffalo Sabres GM.